what I have here is the result of event in which the smoke got let out of this nice little meter here. It's a Hewlett-Packard 34401A, a 6.5 digit meter. It's an older model, but it's still it's very good. I enjoy having it around, but unfortunately now it's in a bad way. And so what I did the other day, I was wanting to just do some tests on some components and things like that. So I had 3 pieces of equipment. Well, I had more than 3 pieces of equipment warming up, and one of them was my meter here. Another one is going to be some handheld footage here. Another one was this Hewlett-Packard RF generator, and then there was this 5-digit fluke meter. So I was going to use 1 meter for measuring current, and the other meter, this one here, for measuring voltage. And I had another experiment in mind with the RF generator. And so I had them all on warming up. And I went and got myself a coffee and looked a little bit of YouTube and came down about 2 hours later. And the room stank. It stank really bad. And so I went to the oldest one, which is the fluke, and I took it apart and there was nothing wrong with it. And then I went to the next oldest one, which is the RF generator. Took it all apart, couldn't find anything wrong with it, and then finally I landed on this one. As soon as I opened up the case, I could smell the smell. And the component that went, I'll show you this under the microscope, but the component that went is this little capacitor here. We'll look at that a little bit closer in a minute. So I had to take it all apart. Unfortunately, you have to break it down completely into all these component pieces. So let's go over to the microscope and have a look at this. Okay, folks, so this here, this is the offending item here. This is the thing that blew up the other day. And it was just a little capacitor like this one here. And like all tantalums, it blew up on the negative end. Now, tantalums tend to blow up on the negative end because the insulating layer on the negative end is much weaker than on the positive side. It's a chemical fact. So that's why you see these things will, if they short out and overheat, they do that on the negative end. Here's some of the other things. Let me take it back to the way I got this. I got this as for parts of repair, and I had a look in it, and so you can see here that there's another capacitor blown up here, and I put this one in temporarily, and the Zener diode, which is underneath this, was missing, and 2 of the pads were gone. So that would be the 2 active pads, like that one and that one on this Zener here beside it. And so I use this through-hole Zener here, and I've connected that up over to here. And here's another interesting thing. So this capacitor here, over here, was also missing. So I replaced that one as well with an electrolytic temporarily. Now look at this Zener here. This Zener works, but it's got a hole in it. See the black dot? That's a hole. It's like a conical hole going down through it. So I don't know what happened to it. I don't know how it managed to survive with a hole in it. Maybe it was just came from the factory that way. I have no idea. But I'm going to replace that one. And I'm not going to try to replace the one underneath here because the pads are missing. So I'm just going to use this one here. But I am going to put a capacitor back into this place here. So I can solder it on the positive end. And then you can see here this little via has got a small little trace from it. And that was the one that was going to the negative pad here. And that's what I've soldered this to. So I'm just going to run a wire from this up to the negative end, and that should suffice. And then I'll get a proper part in here, even though it'll only be held down at one end. I might put a little bit of glue or something like that underneath it to hold it in place. Something that's removable like silicone. And then other than that, I've just got to go through all the parts on this, catalog them all, and put it in order to DigiKey and try and find them. There is one, and I'll show you that in a minute once we get back to the bench. There is one that's on the display, and it's underneath the display module itself. So that's going to be a bit of a hassle getting that one off. I took this one here off. There was one here. It was fine. It wasn't blown up or anything, but I'm going to replace them all anyway. So I took this one off just to see what the process is like, and you can remove them easily without removing the pads. So yeah, it's not going to be that tough, except for the one on the display. And you see here, this is where I remove the electrolytics to test them, and there's one up here too to test them. And two of them turned out to be not so good. This being one of them, it's way down on its value. So they were about to go. I got a little bulgy too. Two of these ones over here, though, two of these ones were okay. They're rated 1,000 microfarads at 50 volts, and those ones were fine. This other one here was a little bit bulgy too, and you can see around it. It looks like there's a very small amount of leakage coming out of it. It was a good thing I got to that. I got to clean that up a little bit with some isopropyl alcohol. And then, like I say, I'll put in an order for all of these at DigiKey, and when we get them in, I'll just replace them. I won't take you through that, but we'll have a look at it when it's finalized. But that's it, folks. Let's go back to the bench, and I'll show you those electrolytics. Just before we go, for all you volt heads, there's the LM399 voltage reference. It's got a little heater in it, and it's a shunt regulator. That's a very, very precise unit, and it allows the 6.5 digit multimeter to do its job. Okay, so here you can see that little capacitor down in there, right there. So I can't get that off without actually removing the whole display. So I've got to remove the display module completely. I don't know, I might have to remove these little metal things on the side here as well to get that display module off, or maybe they'll flex just enough for me to pull the module away. It looks like I might be able to do that. We'll have to see. All right, so let me show you some of the capacitors. These are the electrolytics here that I took off. And as I mentioned before, like these ones here, 50 volt, 1000 UF capacitors. These seem to be fine. Like if you look at the top of them, let me change the lighting here a little bit. If you look at the top of them, they're not swelling at all. But on these ones here, it may not be that obvious to you looking through the camera there, but they're slightly domed. And let's measure them here. Hold on a second. Let me set up for that. All right, so we got one of the 1000 UF ones here, and we'll measure that up. And so yeah, so it's coming up at 919 UF, and let's bring the frequency up and see what the resistance is of it. So it's measuring around about 237 milliohms. So that seems to be fine, and it's close enough for a 20% tolerance capacitor. Let's try this one here. Here's another one of the 1000 UF ones. Yeah, so it's just like the other one. It's measuring 900 UF, and at 7.8 kilohertz, it's at 219 milliohms. Now let's look at the ones that aren't so good. So this one here is supposed to be 4,700 microfarads. And what are we getting in at? Let's get it down to 100 hertz here. So we're only down at 3,700 microfarads. It is supposed to be 2,200 microfarads. And we'll measure this one at 100 hertz. Yeah, it's only 1,700. So these two capacitors here are on their way out. These ones don't seem to be in too bad shape, but I'm going to replace them anyway. And well, that's it. So like I say, I've got to catalog all the components I need to replace, and put in an order to DigiKey. And then when the order comes in, we'll do some replacing. But I'm really not looking forward to taking this apart and getting that capacitor out of there. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt. All right, folks. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.